I'm Wanda with Jimmy Branch Homestead, and well, it's hopefully the final day of building this coop. So today I'm going to work on building the two doors. Should be able to get those done fairly quickly, and it speeds things up since I'm not painting or anything. And put the linoleum down, and then the coop itself will be done. Now, this end over here, I will be attaching. I have to finish the run with the wire and everything, and then butt it up against the coop. Right now I have it screwed tight inside the, down at the bottom towards the inside, towards the door, and a foot in or so over there. So then that's one of the reasons I like a longer tarp, to make sure that I have, extra on both ends. And the next size up from a 12 by 16 is a 16 by 20. So this will not go to the ground, obviously, because this is wider than the coop. But all of this run will be in a totally separate video. This video is just going to be on the coop. So let's try and get this coop done. Okay, so for this door, it needs to be 59 inches tall. And I'm going to cut 2 boards at 59 inches, and then 3 boards for in the middle at 17 inches. Because 17 plus the 3.5 inch board twice equals 24, and that will give me my 24 inch door. So I've measured the first one at 59 inches, and we'll go ahead and get it cut. And that leaves me with 37 inches, so I'll be able to get both 2 of my 17-inch boards out of that. That's good. Had very little waste out of that board, and I was able to get 2 out of the remaining part of the board pieces, for 2 out of the 3. Okay, now that I have my boards all cut for this door, I'm going to go ahead and screw it together again. This is going to be in between them, and then the other long board here. I would show that process as I screw it together, but I'm going to do it on the floor inside the chicken coop. And since I had to put the tarp on yesterday, it's dark in there. So I figured out where the center of my boards is, and I marked them, so I know where to put that, line up that center board. It just makes it that much quicker and easier. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see the door because it's pretty dark in here, but I have it all laid out. I'm going to use these long 5-inch screws, and I'm going to put them in from the sides to go in the middle of the board. And then, because I don't have enough, if I had enough, I'd put 2 in each board on each side. But since I don't, I'm going to use them for the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to add 3.5-inch screws that are toe-nailed into the board, because I want to make sure this is sturdy and not just going to pull apart when I go to open the doors. And then I will toe-nail in the middle one, because again, I only have 4 screws. So I'd rather the one with the shorter screws is inside the run, because they would have to get inside the run to get in here, where this is out to the yard and the woods. So I want it a little more secure. Okay, so here is my door. I've set it into place. You can see there's a gap here and a gap up here and down here. So I'll have to straighten it up a little bit. But don't worry about that, because what I do is I raise the door so half of the gap is at the top, half is at the bottom. And when I put the screen on, I put the screen on longer than the door so that the door will open so to the outside rather than the inside. And that way I can have the screen longer, and that helps to keep things from coming in above or below. It blocks that off. And then I'll put the hinges and the latch here. And I have one more thing too for the frame, and that is these. I like to put these in the corners like this. Oops. There'll be one here, one here, one here, one here. This is the only one I have cut. I do have these all marked, so I'm going to have to rip them in half on the table saw, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back and I have all my pieces cut, but that still gives me a rectangle. It doesn't give me the angles. So when I look at the other one, if I use my square, that gives me the perfect angle to just put it snug up against it and then mark it right there. And that's where it would be cut. So that's where I'm going to mark it, and that's where it's going to be cut. Okay, so now that I have all my boards marked with the correct angles, and make sure that you flip so make sure that both of your angles go in from the corners. That's how you know if you got it right. Okay, so I'm just going to cut these off with my skill saw. I get to screw them into the doors. Okay, so my next step is to put screen on the door. I usually do this on the floor in the coop where it's nice and flat, but like I said, it's so dark you can't see anything. I could just measure out the piece, cut it, and put it on, but I'm just going to kind of pull it up over here, fasten it, and then cut it off. Okay, so the hinges are going to be on this side of the door, so you don't want any overlap on that side. I offset it so I have a little bit of overlap on the other side. The side that's going to open. Oopsie. And because of the way I built my floor and such, I want about 1 inch overhang. It will overhang the plywood that I put on the floor. And about 1 inch overhang on the side. I work my way down to keep it flat, but I do need to check at the top to make sure it's not over too far. And I'm going to put one in down here just to kind of hold it in place. Stapling this down. Okay, so I got it all stapled down, and just to give you a clue how many staples I use almost 2 of those strips as staples on this door. So when I'm stapling, I staple about every 2 inches, and I alternate outside, inside, outside, inside. But then I also staple, going back and forth on the braces and the middle board. So now that it's all stapled down, I'm ready to cut it off. And again, I'm cutting it about 1 inch up. So that's 2 squares, 2 rows on the hardware cloth. Yay! So now we just need to put the hardware on, and we're ready to hang the door. And I did mark where my hinges are going to go, just because it's easier to do that before you put the hardware cloth on. So while I have the door up here and it's easy to work on, I'm going to go ahead and add the hinges. Of course, I don't want her to go just can be a challenge screwing these in around the hardware cloth. Okay, so I've kind of wiggled it around a little bit. Again, this is one of those things that's a little bit harder with one person. Much easier if you have a second person to help hold the door while you're doing the screws. So at this point, I've only put 1 screw in each, just because I had to keep going back and forth and adjusting. And what I was adjusting to is, I want a good gap at the top, but I want the wire to cover. The overlap here covers this crack over here, which is 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and the inside one is not much. So I'm going to go ahead and put the other screws in it. And one of the things that I started doing is really putting handles on all my coops, because it's kind of a pain just using the latch a lot of times. So we're going to put the latch on, we're going to put the screws in these, we're going to put the latch on, and then we'll put the door handle on. Okay, hinges look good. Door opens and closes. Now we're gonna put the latch on. And these are the kind of latches I like to get, and I always use a ring. I forget what you call them. Kind of like a key ring or a D ring to lock them, because raccoons and other animals can just push up on this latch and unlock it. So I forgot to pick some up the other day. I'll have to look around and see if I have any more. I think I might actually have one more that I'm not using on the other coop. So I'll figure out where that is and get it on here. But for now, sometimes these packaging is kind of hard to get open. They're either way too easy and you lose parts, or they're kind of difficult. Now we have all our hardware on and a great working door. I'm not going to show you the other door because I'd be doing it the same. So instead what I'm going to do is clean up inside and we'll get ready to put the linoleum down. And the reason I always use linoleum in my chicken coops is because their urine and feces can get into the wood and be really unhealthy for the chickens. Linoleum makes it really easy to clean up, especially if they get mites or anything. You take all the bedding out, you scrub the floor, and it's so much easier with linoleum. And you're good to go. Ready to put fresh bedding in and everything. So, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to get the linoleum ready. Now I only buy remnants. I don't buy an 8x12 piece. I buy 2 6x8s or 6x9s. So I had one that I bought from Home Depot, and I can't remember which size it was. I think it was the 6x9. And I remembered I needed another one, so last week at Menards I picked up another one, and it was only a 6x8. The reason I like the 6x9s is so when they go in, they'll come out and up a little bit on the sides and hold the bedding in better with the wire and everything, so it doesn't get in there and make such a mess. So let me get it ready. Okay, I did a quick sweep out. And so here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 6x8 for the far end and the 6x9 for this end. And the reason for that is so that the 6x9 can come up further on the side over here where the tarp isn't going all the way to the bottom. And I think what happened was the wire's kind of rough and it was catching it. And so it wasn't, I don't think it's as tight down as it should be. I mean, I pulled and pulled and that's as tight as I could get. But it's almost to the wood over there. So, and what I do is when I replace this tarp, I take this one off, flip it, because it's really dark inside. It's black inside. And then when I have it flipped, I have the silver inside, and I put it down, put it back on, so that it kind of protects the new tarp more when I put it on. I wasn't thinking, but I had a 12x16 I could have put on first, and I just didn't think about it until it was too late. And unfortunately, I have a couple real tiny holes in the tarp, so I will have to put duct tape or something over those just to make sure. Not much water is going to come in. It wouldn't matter too much, but I don't want the bedding getting wet and stuff like that, so at some point I will go back and patch that a little bit. Okay, so this is the 6x8, and I'm going to put it in there first and lay it down, but when I put this one down, I'm going to actually overlap this one onto it. And the reason being, I'd be sweeping this way when I do the clean out. So I'll shovel this way, then I'll sweep it this way by wheelbarrows or trailers and take it down to the compost. Now you might notice that my two rolls are slightly different color. They're both wood grain patterns, both medium to light. Guess what? Doesn't matter, it's a chicken coop and it's going to be covered up with bedding. So you're not going to see it anyway, except for when you're cleaning it. I stick this on there pretty good so it doesn't unravel. These rolls are sold. A lot of times people replace linoleum in a hallway or a bathroom, and they're great for that. But I use them for the chicken coops. Now these aren't super thick. I pay like $25, $30 for them. What do you expect? But they'll do the trick. All right, so I have my two pieces of linoleum in place. This is the kind I like. I like the 9 feet wide so that it goes up on the sides about 6 inches. Like I said, it just kind of helps to keep the bedding in a little better and that kind of thing. So this one was not as wide, so it still goes up the sides on both sides just a little. This side just a little, and so I put it up about, looks like maybe 3-4 inches on the other side. So at this point what I want to do is I want to tack these down, because otherwise litter and junk can get under here, and dirt, and this just keeps that down so I'm not tripping on it when I'm in here working, and also so it doesn't get any of that junk in it. And I just put it on with these little fat-headed roof tacks. If it was in my house I wouldn't use that, obviously, but it's in a chicken coop and you're not going to see it. And they don't have to be real close together. But I like to put one in the middle and one on each side, and then go from there. Well, I am so excited and relieved to be done with this project. So, let's go on a walkthrough. So this is the first door that I did. I did put some screws with a good head on them along this seam so I don't trip over it as I'm coming in and out the door. That's a rope to hang up water and feeder. The linoleum is all down. And the other door is on. All the hardware is on it as well. So it is 100% enclosed and ready for the chicks, except for the feeder and water. If it stays hot, I won't have to put anything over the ends. I don't really want to build anything right now. I do for the winters. But in the summer, I take them off. So if it's too cold for the chicks when I put them out here, or too cool at night, I do have a couple of 6x8 tarps, and I'll just put those over the ends. And they will have a heat lamp for a couple weeks on the inside until they're fully feathered. So what I did with the tarp, for now, I brought it all back and kind of tied it down. It's kind of screwed down over here and stuff, and zip tied to the strap on the other side. So hopefully that'll hold it. So my next project will be putting all of the chicken wire and hardware cloth on this frame. Then figuring out how to hook it up to the chicken coop. It is wider than the coop, but that's why I want to put all of the wire and everything on it, put it right up against it, and then I might have to run one more thing of wire to kind of join them. That'll be another project. So another different video, but that'll be the run that'll come out of that chicken coop. What a relief to be done with this. The chicks are going to be hatched in about a week, so really happy to be done with it. One other thing I forgot to tell you, on this little latch here that comes up that holds the arm, there is a hole. Hopefully you can see that. And in that hole, you would tie on a string or a wire. I prefer wire because we had some heavy-duty string. It rotted and I got stuck in the coop. The purpose of this is so you don't get stuck in the coop. So you would drill a hole up here. That's the one other thing I'm going to have to do still. And then I'll have a metal wire that comes looped through this and tied off, goes through the hole, gives me a few inches to grab, and tied off there where it cannot come back through the hole. So that way, if you're inside and you accidentally lock yourself in, you just pull the string and it lifts it up and unlocks it for you. So if you're enjoying this type of video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our videos on your social media. It's the best way you can help our channel to grow. Thank you so much for watching Jimmy Branch Homestead. Take care and God bless.